Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. Great to see everyone. I am so glad to have you here. What do you know? We got started on time. Welcome to the office. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the morning grind. I'm sitting on my bathrobe. Let's get this out of here. Good morning. So, welcome to the morning grind. I'm Heath. I'll be your host this morning. We're going to continue our discussion and analysis of the Paizo ORC license and actually look at the license today. We were looking at the frequently asked questions and all of that first. So we're actually going to start looking at the license today. Hopefully we'll get finished with it. But we're actually going to take a look at the license. I've been thinking quite a bit about the license over the past 24 hours since the last time we were on a stream together. And I think I've figured out, it seems like then, well, why would Paizo do the weird thing with its infinite? That's what we were with its Pathfinder Infinite and Starfinder Infinite. We were trying to figure that out, and it might be because the license has so many ambiguities in it, as we were talking about yesterday, that maybe they decided they couldn't. I mean, that would be terrible, but maybe that was it. Who knows? So let's see. We've got Stray this morning. Good morning, Stray. And James. Good morning, James. Micah's here. Good morning. Please do hit the like button if you're here and help get this out to other people. Help to get this out to other people who might be subscribed to the channel and sitting here right here on YouTube right now and would love to be here with us. And they might not even know the stream's going on because YouTube hasn't shown it to them. Let's see. Good morning, David. Good morning. And Sable Phoenix is here. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Let's see. So last night I had a big meeting, big dinner meeting last night. Went over a whole bunch of things about things are going on here in the Geekverse and in Ravenkeep in general. Articulated plans, and some of them that I want to go over on the morning grind here in the next, I don't know, couple days, weeks, whatever, 3 months. This has got to be a big 3 months between now and, well, I guess roughly between the end of February and certainly by the end of March. Between now and then, there's a lot of stuff that's got to happen. So if you're, so I'll be giving some behind the scenes information on that on the morning grind, and we'll see what's going on all of the channels. And we need some big success. We need some big success here over the next month, next 3 months, approximately. Probably lots of people out here are like that as well. If you need some big success, over the next 3 months, here's to you. Here's to you. Here is to big success over the next 3 months for everybody here who is part of this community. Big success. And do come and check out the Discord server. And hey, maybe get some support for some big success, because there is parts about better living and productivity and things like that. So get some support for big success. Let me see. Let me bring up a couple of things going on. Well, what happens in 3 months? Well, what happens in 3 months is I got to figure out how to make all of this self-sustainable and actually work and function the way that I'm supposed to get it to function. And I don't have an eternal amount of time to do that with. So I got to make I got about a 3 month window. So it probably means we need to launch something at that time, something big. Let's see. So, and actually make something happen sustainable. Good morning, Phaser Wrist. Good morning. Good morning. Great success. All right. So tonight, let me share my screen here. Tonight, do I have the book sitting in here? It's sitting in the kitchen. It's all right. Tonight, we are going to be reading, or not reading, but discussing The Anatomy of Genres by Truby. Good morning, Zero the Blade. We're going to be going over, Doug will be on the stream and Brianna will be on the stream. Brianna recommended this book. We're only going over the first 2 chapters. I have been reading it and I'm almost done with the second chapter, so I'm going to finish it after the stream today. Very interesting. I think that a lot of people who are part of the community and part of the table talk discussions will really like this particular perspective that John Truby has on genres. I was really enjoying the first chapter was basically articulating his theory and philosophy of genres. Oh, Sable Phoenix knows it. Okay, so I was hoping that somebody knew it. So Sable Phoenix knows it. It's and Phaser Wrist has it. It's really good. Okay, so it's also recommended by Phaser Wrist. Okay, excellent. So yeah, it's both basically a book on general philosophy and how stories integrate into our society, as well as technical information for actually writing. So and we're gonna be looking at the first 2 chapters tonight. So the first chapter is the basic philosophy explained, and the second chapter is about the horror genre. So I did update the title to include specifically that we're talking about horror down here. Anatomy of Genres, horror. That's going to be a large part of the discussion tonight. So if you would like to be a part of that, I will put this right here. Table talk about the anatomy of genres tonight. Well, can't type. About the anatomy of genres tonight. There we go. So there's the link. The link just went into the comments there. If you're interested, please do click that link. This is the link to over on the Table Talk channel. And hit the, I'm already on here, but hit the Oh, there we go. The notify me button. And that way, YouTube's can be kind of fickle, I suppose, about letting people know when stuff is going on. But if you click the notify me, it should let you know. At least every time I click notify me, I do get an email saying that, hey, we're actually live. So there we go. Live in 9 hours tonight. So that's going to be a fun discussion tonight. Let's see. As Stray just pointed out, the trial of St. Gabriel. I have had every problem you can possibly have trying to get the marketing material out for this, which is a problem because I'm looking at the face of Christmas coming up very soon, which, by the way, we got Thanksgiving this week. So Thanksgiving this Thursday night, I will probably do a re-airing of a Table Talk video. So there won't be a live Table Talk Thursday night because that's Thanksgiving. And I do have a family get together for Thanksgiving lunch that I'm gonna have to drive a bit for. So it's probably unlikely that I will do the morning grind on Thanksgiving morning because I've got to be with the family for lunch. My time about 11 o'clock, I suppose, getting together about 11 o'clock. And it'll take me a couple of hours to drive there. So no morning grind on Thanksgiving morning, sounds like. But anyway, I've had just about every single problem you can possibly have trying to get the marketing material for this out. And I'm going to fix that like now. So it's looking like this will be like the first 10 days of December, I'm thinking about. And then that way the digital copies will get to everybody before Christmas and about mid-December. And then the physical copies will still come in. I'm still waiting for my physical proof, too. When I get the physical proof, we will take a look at this. This is the dark short story about the Christmas massacre. And also, as Stray has pointed out, we're really going to be doing a lot with the Cultists, too, over the next 3 months. So the Cultists, this is and Brianna's mockumentary about cultists, modern-day Lovecraftian cultists who just want to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand. So we've been putting up commentary. Oh, you know what? I got some more director's commentary that I need to put up. I'm trying to be very deliberate about the re-release of the videos. So we've got the first 3 episodes up now, including a trailer, my commentary, and Brianna's commentary. So I need to put up Brianna's 3rd commentary. So if you've been enjoying Brianna's discussion or my discussion on Table Talk, and you want some behind-the-scenes discussion about what it actually was like to try to produce the Cultists, well, you can get it. It's on the channel right here. So a lot more coming out as far as the Cultist goes too. Good morning, PH. Yeah, instead of trying to actually get up and do it earlier or something like that, just work it. Thanksgiving, Stray. I'm thankful for you as well, Stray. Stray says Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful for Heath and the Geekverse. All right, so that's what's going on there. We're gonna go over to the ORC license, but first we got to do our sacraments. Everybody got your coffee this morning? I actually have coffee this morning in a fish do not drink tea cup. This is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. First, let's breathe and sip. All right, 2 deep breaths, complete inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. So here we go. Everybody together. And sip. It's good to actually have coffee this morning. It's getting a bit cooler around here again. So it's good to have coffee again. Okay, the Territorial Organization. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. There's a 3-legged coyote who lives up the hill from me. All the garbage cans in the neighborhood belong to him. It's his territory. Every now and then, some 4-legged intruder tries to take over. They can't do it. On his home turf, he's a peg-legged critter. Even a peg-legged critter is invincible. We humans have territories too. Ours are psychological. Stevie Wonder's territory is the piano. Arnold Schwarzenegger's is the gym. When Bill Gates pulls into the parking lot at Microsoft, he's on his territory. When I sit down to write, I'm on mine. What are the qualities of a territory? 1. A territory provides sustenance. Runners know what a territory is, so do rock climbers and kayakers and yogis. Artists and entrepreneurs know what a territory is. The swimmer who towels off after finishing her laps feels a hell of a lot better than the tired, cranky person who dove into the pool 30 minutes earlier. 2. A territory sustains us without any external input. A territory is a closed feedback loop. Our role is to put in effort and love. Our territory absorbs this and gives it back to us in the form of well-being. When experts tell us that exercise or any other effort-requiring activity banishes depression, this is what they mean. 3. A territory can only be claimed alone. You can team up with a partner, you can work with a friend, but you only need yourself to, or can only be claimed alone. But you only need yourself to soak up the territory's juice. I see. A territory can only be claimed by work. When Arnold Schwarzenegger hits the gym, he's on his own turf. But what makes it his own are the hours and years of sweat he's put into it. A territory doesn't give, it gives back. 5. A territory returns exactly what you put in. Territories are fair. Every urge of energy you put in goes infallibly into your account. A territory never devalues. A territory never crashes. What you deposited, you get back. Dollar for dollar. What's your territory? Let's see. I'll come to that in a moment, PH. Let me go to... we need something about the Roman Empire. And, I sent Doug a meme about the Roman Empire, and I meant to bring this up. I will share it with you guys. Oh. Of course, if I can. Let's see. Found it. Here's our thought about the Roman Empire. I thought this was a funny meme. It comes from the... History's Finest Memes. I thought that... I also follow something specifically about the Eastern Roman Empire. But I thought this was a great spoof. I don't know, a meme of a meme or a spoof of a meme. I guess you all know the meme with the people dancing at the party and the guy standing off in the corner. But I thought this was really good. They don't know that I'm Emperor of the Romans. So there's our thought about the Roman Empire today. And most of us around here will, of course, get the joke. And that's what makes this fantastic. So there we go. Erg is just a unit of work or energy. Okay, specifically equal to the work put in. 100 nanojoules, according to the online unit converter. Okay, so an erg is a unit of work or energy. I didn't know that. Yes, so we had been talking about that. What a mess, this OpenAI situation. Have you seen that 95% of employees signed a letter threatening to quit if the board doesn't resign? I didn't know that it was up to 95%, but it was something like 500 of 770 or something like that, like last I saw or something. So, and one of the signers was the person who had been, was Mira, who had been the interim CEO, but is now not the interim CEO anymore. So, yeah, I mean, and I did, by the way, see that Ilya had tweeted yesterday. I think before we actually came to the morning grind, and Ilya is, of course, their chief scientist, and actually on AI research. And he said that I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he said that he regretted his actions with the board over the past few days, and he never intended to hurt OpenAI. And that he hoped he would be able to get the company back together. But okay, good luck with that at this point. All right, let's go over and start taking a look at this, the ORC license. I'm gonna see if I can download this and get this better in a window for you to see. Nope. Here we go. Don't destroy yourself. Oh, also, by the way, in the I was speaking with one of the members of the community earlier. I don't know if anybody wrote anything about this in the news for the grind section of the Discord server. I need to catch up on this. This lawsuit between Upper Deck and Ravensburger. I posted a link to it in the news for the grind section. Because we were having a discussion. I was having a discussion yesterday with someone who was saying that the result of what goes on with this is like a Upper Deck alleges copyright infringement with Disney Lorcana. I guess that's how you pronounce that, Lorcana or Lorcana. So I posted a link to what I know. It might be something that we want to look at here because the person I was talking with, I guess he doesn't mind who I'd say does, but I'll just, unless he comes talk, he'll talk about it more, I suppose, later. But was saying that he thought that the result of that particular lawsuit could have ramifications on the status of the copyright ability of both mechanics and expressions of mechanics, and was watching it closely. So I posted a link to that in News for the Grind. So if I can find some better court documents, we might also take a look at that. And see what's going on with it. Okay, there we go. And if anybody has other information or links that are better, please put them in the News for the Grind section. We may take a look at it. Apparently, one of the board members is a partner in Quora, and the new Open AI store messes up with their plan. Well, I heard that too. So yes, the CEO of Quora, is he the CEO of Quora? I think he might be. He could be. The CEO of Quora, for some reason, is one of the board members, one of the 6 board members on OpenAI. And I did also see I think it was last night or something, that a new theory had emerged that Quora was doing something with an API access to OpenAI. And of course, we did talk about how when we're releasing the GPTs, the GPT store, that did mess with a lot of what people were trying to build, because a lot more stuff was being brought internal. And a lot of people who are building external APIs, like it might not be, or building stuff off of the API might not be as relevant anymore. And so I did hear a rumor that happened to Quora, and that's what the thing about he's not being candid with us, letting us know that something was going on so that he could take that and like understand its impact on his other business or something. I did hear that. Man, there is so much drama with that. Have you seen that OpenAI and Microsoft appear to be patching things up via partnership? The headlines appear confusing. It might just be happy talk. Well, I don't see why that would not be the case. I mean, Microsoft is basically getting everything, and who knows? It might even be able to buy OpenAI for pennies on the dollar. So it's we're gonna see. I think Microsoft is happy at the end of all of this. In the end, wasn't happy when all of a sudden he was fired and their stock tanked. Lorcana is already a clone of Magic the Gathering. Well, I think we should get into it later. I put that on the docket to potentially look at on. I was trying to rewrite my morning grind topics over here. So the Lorcana lawsuit. Is something that we could take a look at. All right. ORC final license. What's actually in this? This open RPG creative license, the ORC license, grants the right to use licensed material subject to the terms and conditions set forth and referenced as follows. So here are the definitions. So definitions. 1A, adapted licensed material means derivative work that use all or a portion of the licensed material that you create or publish to the limited extent that such derivative works would otherwise constitute those forms of licensed material set forth in section 1E2 below. Adapted licensed material expressly includes works that would constitute reserved material. So I think we're going in alphabetical order here, not necessarily the order in which things need to be presented in order to be adequately understood. Copyright and similar rights means copyright and or similar rights closely related to copyright, including, without limitation, performance, broadcast, sound recording, and sui generis database rights, without regard to how the rights are labeled or categorized. In no event shall copyright and similar rights include trademark or patent rights. C, derivative work means for a product that uses a single playable game system, the entire product published by or on behalf of you that is based on, derived from, or incorporates all or any portion of the licensed material. Now, this is going to be important because I was thinking also yesterday about how my potentially naive understanding of how a share and share alike license would work versus what this one actually does, which is why you do read these things before you start using them. Because derivative work is going to be important on that, but I do want to actually read that. I'll talk about that when I actually get to that section of the license. Derivative work. This says for a product that uses a single playable game system, it's the entire product published by you, not a portion of it, but the entire product published by you or on behalf of you that is based on, derived from, or incorporates any portion of the licensed material. And two, for products containing sections related to multiple non-interoperable game systems, such as a magazine featuring sections regarding multiple unrelated games from different publishers or a website with portions related to different games, the entire portion of the work related to or derived from the licensed material shall constitute the derivative work. So if you're working with non-interoperable, for products that contain, this is the magazine thing that was talked about in the FAQ yesterday, in the ACTS yesterday, for products containing sections relating to multiple non-interoperable game systems. But what about magazines that feature that all are interoperable? What if it's something like Dungeon or Dragon magazine? That is all, they would all D&D, right? So if you have a magazine, such as magazines featuring sections regarding multiple unrelated games, what if you had a magazine that is all related games from different publishers, or a website with portions related to different games? The entire portion of the work related to or derived from the licensed material shall constitute the derivative work. So yeah, that's kind of strange too, because what if it's a magazine that's all about Pathfinder? Is that something that could happen? But only one article is based on ORC work. I don't understand that. It's alphabetical for being able to find terms quickly. That's why. Yes. Micah says exactly. If you have tabletop RPG systems that have contradictory mechanics, you can keep articles that aren't passed forward mechanics if the original wasn't under the ORC license. But if it's based around a single system under the ORC license, the entire magazine issue becomes under the ORC license. And I can't see that's something I can't see any publisher doing. Maybe in specific cases, like maybe there's some specific use case for that. But I think in that case, no, I'm not putting my entire magazine out. One article that uses the ORC material would be one thing, but the entire magazine, why would you do that? Effective technological measures, meaning those measures that in the absence of proper authority may not be circumvented under laws fulfilling obligations under Article 11 of the WIPO Copyright Treaty adopted on December 20th, 1996, and or similar international agreements. Licensed material means, so licensed material, this is going to be very important because we're going to separate licensed material from reserved material. We definitely have reserved material right here. So these are also very important. Derivative work was very important to this. Licensed material is very important to this. Licensed material. Oh, this is exactly what we looked at last time as well. That was so important obviously it's important because it's about what licensed material is. But licensed material, which is what you're going to license through the ORC license, means one, any material contained in a work that would otherwise constitute reserved material but has been expressly designated as licensed material by the materials licensor. And 2, those expressions, so this is your special exception. Hey, ordinarily this wouldn't be licensed material according to the license, but you can declare it such if you desire to. That's one. But then the more comprehensive and direct part of this is the stuff that is going to become licensed material and therefore completely open under a share and share alike license. And as role of law points out, is basically forcing you to do. So the more important one, if you're not explicitly granting something, is that this is just what happens to you as the result of the license. Licensed material means those expressions reasonably necessary to convey functional ideas and methods of operation of a game that are contained in a work that are comprised of systems, procedures, processes, rules, laws, instructions, heuristics, routines, functional elements, commands, structures, principles, methodologies, operations, devices, and concepts of play, and the limitations, restraints, constraints, allowances, and affordances inherent in gameplay, including but not limited to expressions describing the function of or providing instructions to the following. All of that, which including but not limited to those expressions, which might detail the following: the creation and play of character and non-player characters, such as statistics, attributes, stat blocks, traits, classes, jobs, alignments, professions, proficiencies, abilities, spells, skills, actions, reactions, interactions, resources, and equipment. Okay, let's go over and see what Micah is saying, because Micah has been deep in this. If you're just joining this stream and haven't been following what's been going on before, Micah has been deep in this also on the development server for this document here. Micah says, granted, it's supposed to separate out what is reserved material, but the issues of ambiguity allows a lot to be able to go through. Right. And as we found out yesterday, we did the FAQ, the acts first. Ambiguity that I would not want to deal with in that. I mean, by the time that you're having to go to the FAQ, that we found that, first of all, I didn't really understand the distinction, some of the distinctions that it was trying to make, especially clearly. And also there were things in it that I thought, and Micah thought, were completely counter to, the examples were completely counter to my understanding of the license. Micah says, yeah, if you chose to, you can push forward all descriptions of a character, etc., if you want to grant it. And right there's concepts of play, which is one I specifically wanted struck out. The description of a character, personality, etc., is a concept of play, which opens up a lot. Okay, so concept of play. Wait, where was that word? Oh, it's up here. Okay. Licensed material is all concepts of play. We take deep dives here. So procedures, processes, rules, laws, instructions, heuristics, routines, functional elements, commands, structures, principles, methodologies, operations, and concepts of play. Yeah, if you ask me, Heath, come up with a definition of concept of play, I would not have one at the ready. What exactly is a concept of play? That also seems very broad to me. If you have in your material, in your publication, any concept of play, and that's what we were talking about yesterday specifically, which the FAQ was trying to address, is what's the difference between something mechanical and something that is like a description that might not be. And we're talking about, if the monster smells a certain way, is that something that's licensed material or not? Maybe is it something that's mechanical in the game? Maybe. In something like a role-playing game, the smell of the monster could certainly be mechanical, because you might have to roll to detect it, or some creatures may be able to smell better than others, and so you're going to get the rolls. That could be something that's mechanical in play. It might not be. It might not be, but it could certainly be. And now we have this idea of concepts of play here. You are required when you use the ORC license to give away. It's automatic. Everything in there that is part of your concepts of play. Yeah, that's so vague. How would basically anything? Yeah, okay. Sable agrees here. Yeah, concepts of play is so freaking general that it's a useless description. Yeah, that. I mean, if you've got like, let's pick an arbitrary RPG book. Well, how about The Call of Cthulhu, Keeper's Rulebook? If this were licensed under the ORC, and I said all concepts of play are licensed materials, then we're going to distinguish between licensed material and reserved material. How do I know if something is licensed material? Is it a concept of play? It's going to be really hard, or it's arguable. I could probably argue, that being so vague, that absolutely everything in this book is a concept of play because it's a rule book. Yeah, that's very broad. I think you're right. I think that should have been struck. Micah says there are so many words not defined in the description of licensed material, so broad and so vague, when it could include any mechanic that determines success or failure. Sable says the very idea of creating a character to play as could be a concept of play. Playing on a battle map or not could be a concept of play. Like, yes, it's anything. So that's... And this, I think, is one of the main reasons because I did go back and I listened to Role of Law's material in order, and I had been jumping around in it. But like, these are the kinds of things that cause litigation. Because you're making somebody give something up. You're making them. If you are part of this license, you are making them give up large chunks of this rule book. And it's not something that you declare as part of it. It's saying that if you use this license, then anything that pertains to any of these things is automatically going out the door. There may be things that you don't want to give up, but there may be something else that somebody wants you to give up and could argue that it belongs to something as vague as a concept of play. Yeah, I agree. We discussed yesterday that if a monster smells so bad it mechanically hinders the players via rolling or modifying penalties, it's now in the ORC regardless. So creation and play of character or non-player character. So this is all of those things that are a part of. Right, exactly. And people mocked some of us for wanting revisions to harping on his smell or color illumination of his spell or creature description, etc. So all of these things that we just came up with for creation, but including but not limited to the following: creation and play of character, player and non-player characters such as statistics, attributes, stat blocks, traits, classes, jobs, alignments, professions, proficiencies, abilities, spells, skills, actions, reactions, interactions, resources, and equipment. 2, systems and classifications applicable to gameplay, such as alignments, backgrounds, classes, experience points, levels, and leveling up, encounters, combat, initiative and turn order, movement, monster statistics, creature types, traps, conditions, buffs, and debuffs, powers, certain types, challenge ratings, moves, difficulty classes, skill checks, saving throws, resting and resource management, classification of magic systems, spell and ability effects, looting, item, and equipment, diplomacy systems, dialogue options, and outcome determinations. Method of determining success, failure, or outcome, and any expression of such methods or of such successes, failures, and outcomes. And 4, methods and mediums by which players play the game, such as dice rolling, random number generation, coin flipping, card drawing and play, applying modifiers to results of chances, creating or filling in character sheets, moving and interacting with tokens or figurines, drawing maps and illustrations, speaking, messaging, acting, pantomime, writing notes, asking questions, and making statements. But it's which to me, and this was the part that we brought up yesterday, was that what if you're making a narrative game? What if your game is predominantly is a narrative game? What if it's a narrative game? To me, the methods and mediums of playing the game would include all of these things like messaging, speaking, asking questions, making notes, acting, and pantomiming, would make the way to play a narrative game licensed material. But according to the FAQ, it was exactly the opposite. If you're making and their word was truly narrative game. If it's a truly narrative, if it's a narrative game, then it's licensed material. If it's a truly narrative game, then it's reserved material. Who's going to sit here and argue whether something is a narrative game? It's a narrative game, but it's not truly a narrative game. Like, no, who wants to argue that and get involved with that? Why would you use a license that has something like that in it? Bizarre. I know pantomime. So pantomime was in there, right? Yes, because I remember pantomime came up. Sable says, "I do appreciate that they threw pantomime in there. Nice little dig at WotC's attempt at OGL 2.0." Yes, I bet that's why that's in there. Micah says, "We wanted in the context of the system to also apply because it isn't a mechanic in the system. It shouldn't matter that it might be a mechanic in another system." Well, it might be a mechanic. I guess my point was it might be a mechanic in another system, or it might be a mechanic. It might be a mechanic in this system. Like if a monster smells really bad, some game masters may have that actually influence the mechanics of the game. Some game masters may call for a perception check based on smell in order to determine it. Some might call for a constitution save to avoid a penalty because of action around because it smells so bad. Other game masters may ignore it. Is it enough that in Dungeons and Dragons, a foul smell of a monster might have mechanical in Pathfinder? It might have a mechanical effect. Is that enough? That would be my question. But it says we wanted in the context of the system to also apply. Because if it isn't a mechanic in that system, it shouldn't matter that it might be a mechanic in another system. But that got ignored by Azora Law and others high up in the development of the license. Ikwander, Eric Mona, at least recognized that it might help and passed it along, but it didn't get at it. TSL Frumman says, a lot of these things or elements are hard to protect either way, though. Remember, though, that what we are doing is there is a distinction between a game mechanic and the expression of the game mechanic. So remember, there were people in my comments when we were talking about the original thing that, hey, or the original OGL debacle, hey, don't worry about it. Game mechanics can't be copyrighted. So all you have to do is completely rewrite the SRD in your own words. That's all you have to do. Completely rewrite the SRD in your own words. You can't copyright the mechanics of the game. They can copyright the expression of the mechanics, the SRD, which they licensed out to you by the OGL. So all you have to do is just completely rewrite the SRD in your own words. That's a big ask. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to allow people to explicitly use the expressions. It's okay. You can completely use the expression. Nobody's not one of the purposes of this, at least, was saying that, hey, we're not going to get into a copyright dispute with you about whether or not your expression of the game mechanics are too close to mine. You can even use exactly mine, which is part of what that the Lorcana lawsuit is about, which is why it was brought up as potentially relevant here. And we need to look at this because they are in the court filings saying, listen, here's the wordage, your verbiage. Here's your wording of a game mechanic. And here's my wording of a game mechanic. These things are too close. You're in violation of copyright. Wizards of the Coast, when Ryan Dancy got on this, was saying, don't worry about that. You can use exactly our verbiage for everything that's in the SRD, and there's going to be no lawsuit about that. Cleared things up. Micah says, the idea of mechanics are so hard to protect, but not the precise expression. Okay, that's exactly what I was just saying. And the ORC license ambiguities opens up other expressions that might not be mechanical. The OGL, I think, is not even 5 whole pages long. Well, you can fit it on one. You can fit the OGL on one page. You can fit the entire OGL 1.0 on one page. I noticed that, like, it's a one-page license. Paizo. I noticed that Paizo made it. If you put it in small enough font, you can get it on half a page. Sable says, I mean, there are already mechanics in D&D that have mechanics based on their smell. Yeah, but if you don't, so if you specifically say that this creature has this smell and therefore these mechanical effects, but what if you just talk about the smell? So it's not an unreasonable example. Micah says, right, it's a mechanic in a particular game system. Right, if it's a mechanic in a particular system as described, then it can be carried forward. But if it's a homebrew or interpreted rule and not written rules, then it shouldn't be copied. Okay, the term licensed material shall in no event include third-party reserved material. For the avoidance of doubt, the term licensed material is intended to exclude reserved material except to the limited extent a licensor has already expressed designated content that would otherwise constitute their reserved material as licensed material pursuant to the notice published under Article 3. Or pursuant. Material pursuant to notice published under Article 3. Licensed rights means the rights granted to you subject to the rights and conditions of this ORC license, which are limited to all copyright and similar right that apply to your use of the licensed material, and the licensure has authority to license. Licensor means any individual or entity granting rights under this ORC license. Reserved material, which is important here, it means trademarks, trade dress, and creative expressions that are not essential to or can be varied without altering the ideas or methods of operation of a game system. Man, we got things to say about this here, including works of visual art, music and sound design, and clearly expressed and sufficiently delineated characters, character organizations, dialogue, settings, locations, worlds, plots, or storylines, including proper nouns and the adjectives, names and titles derived from proper nouns. The term reserved material shall in no event include elements that have been previously expressly designated as licensed material by that material's licensor, and that are adapted licensed material that constitute third-party reserved material or that are in the public domain. Micah says, it's a good example, though it has a mechanic with that specific stat block versus descriptive text elsewhere, which shows a difference. But that system has at least that mechanic in that book. In another book, it might not. But we still have a smell description. So, reserved material includes ideas or methods of operation of a game system. Oh, no, excuse me. So, it includes reserved material, which is not licensed material. Reserved material is creative expressions that are not essential to or can be varied without altering the ideas or methods of operation of a game system. I mean, so you've got to decide whether or not this particular creative expression is not essential to the ideas or methods of the operation of the game system. Or, say, that's one thing. If it just said that would be one thing. That are not essential to the ideas or methods of operation of the game system. If it just said that, it still might not be perfectly clear, but I think I could start going through a book with a red line and start going, okay, what creative expressions in here are not essential to the methods of operation of this game? Because we're kind of used to separating, let's say, fluff from the crunch, which kind of seems like what we're doing here. But when you say creative expressions that can be varied without altering the ideas or methods of operation of the game system, now I have to look at everything a lot more closely and determine whether or not this can be varied. Well, you could vary this. and it would not alter the idea or methods of the operation. I'd have to think a lot more closely about whether any particular creative expression conforms to that. PH Arbeck says renaming OSR would be like, I have a 5-tier warrior with a physic of 16 and offensive power of 7. I roll the Hedron and get a 23 to find your body defense. I inflict 9 points of hurt. Yeah. Why are we talking about music and visual art in this license for tabletop gaming? What are they even thinking here? Well, I know what they're talking about as far as visual art goes. Because if you ask me for a creative expression that is not essential to the ideas or methods or operation of a game system, and I've got this book right here, and I have this particular picture right here, I would say this right here is reserved material. This picture right here is not licensed because the visual material is in here is because so much of our RPG books have art in them. And so this is specifically telling you, like this piece of art right here. If this book were under the ORC license, would this picture, this illustration that has presumably been commissioned by Chaosium here, be something that is licensed? So I completely do, and this is specifically telling you that no, then I would say that. I would agree with that. That part I agree with. That picture in that rule book is a creative expression that is not essential to the ideas and methods of the operation of the game. It's the fluff. It's the part. So that's why visual art is in there, I'm sure. Music and sound design. Music and sound design probably was included here because of virtual tabletops. And if we're talking about something that, or electronic thing, because you can embed music and sound into electronic books. Excuse me. And so if I've got some music in an electronic RPG book, can I change out the music without being essential to the? Probably I can. Anything can be varied. The mechanical text can be. You're right. Yeah, I know. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, and this is what PH was talking about up here. That's why I have to think about it in great detail. Can I vary this sentence without affecting the ideas or methods of operation? This is a mess. Like, I know it's an exclusions clause, but this seems like well outside the purview of the document. I think it's reasonably understood that art and other creative materials aren't included. Right? They do need separate licenses. No, I know. Actually, that is kind of funny. I realized that. I just went and grabbed that. So Micah says, so here's the funny thing with his continuing use of the Call of Cthulhu as an example. Chaosium was the one who leaked the first draft early, stating their basic rules would be under it before the license was finished. Yeah, so Chaosium was one of the very first ones. That's actually why I think that's when we looked at the ORC license the last time, because it was not a finished version of the license that we looked at. This was several months ago. And I think that Paizo said it was not ready to put out the ORC yet. It was coming out later, but Paizo went ahead, and Chaosium went ahead and said, hey, it's the ORC license. This is what's our basic role-playing game, or Call of Cthulhu, whatever, the basic role-playing, underneath it, whichever one exactly that was, is going to be using the ORC license. So Chaosium liked an early version of this and came out with this. Which is also strange. Sui generis database rights means rights other than copyright resulting from Directive 96/9 EC of the European Parliament and the Council of 11 March 1996 on the legal protection of databases, as amended and or succeeded, as well as any essentially equivalent rights anywhere in the world. Term means the longer of the term of the copyright and or similar rights licensed herein. Third-party reserved material means all intellectual rights that are not and have not been licensed under the ORC license and are neither owned nor controlled by the licensor or you or any person or entity that directly or indirectly controls or is controlled by or is under the common control with you and the licensor. So that's the third-party reserved material is stuff like so that you can make a Star Wars game. Used or used means to use material by any means or process that requires permission under the licensed rights, such as the production, reproduction, creation of derivative works, public display, public performance, distribution, dissemination, communication, or importation, and to make material available to the public, including in ways that materials of the public may access the material from a place and at a time individually chosen by them. Works or works means that where a licensor applies notice substantially in the form described in Section 3 to a product, 1, for products containing a single playable game, the entire product published by licensor shall constitute the work, and 2, for products containing sections related to multiple non-interoperable games, such as a magazine featuring sections regarding multiple unrelated games from different publishers, or a website with portions related to different games. The entire portion of the product related to or derived from the licensed material shall constitute your work. The entire portion of the product related to or derived from the licensed material shall constitute your work. This is where we get again. So 1, for products containing a single playable game, the entire product published by the licensor shall constitute the work. And this goes back to our licensor thing. Or for products containing sections related to multiple non-interoperable games, that portion, the entire portion, is the work. You or your means the individual or entity exercising rights granted under this ORC license. Good morning, BGD. Good morning. So Micah says Chaosium leaked it on a Friday when Paizo wanted to tweak and then release it on a Monday or later. Why not? So why couldn't they have continued to do that? Micah says the third-party reserved material description was in part adapted from what it was before due to role of law and seeing the potential of a shell company self-licensing. Oh. The third-party reserved material description was in part adapted from what it was before due to role of law and seeing the potential for a shell company self-licensing. So that's why it says things that are not owned by you or have not been licensed under the ORC license and are neither owned nor controlled by the licensor or you or any person or entity that directly or indirectly controls or is controlled by or is under common control with you and the licensor. That's why that part is here as well. That prevents you from establishing a shell company that's going to hold some material to try to get around the licensing. Oh, no, that's third party. Well, that's third party reserved material. Well, not really. It's your shell company. Great. Fantastic. Because before the change, someone could create a work, then self-license without passing it on by declaring the work as a third-party license if they made a license for it to pair with the ORC license in a second book. Excellent catch. Good morning, BGD. Sable Phoenix says, the OGL functioned and still functions just fine for almost 30 years. I don't see why they couldn't have just grabbed the text of the OGL and made a few modifications. Well, okay. Yeah, this seems to be completely rebuilt. But remember, Wizards of the Coast owns the copyright to the OGL. That was a big thing that we talked about during the OGL debacle, that the OGL itself is copyright Wizards of the Coast. The OGL itself is not licensed under the OGL or anything like that. And watch my my interview with Ryan Dancy about that. Why is the OGL? What did he say explicitly about that? I'm trying to recall. We should go back and reference that. But I asked him about that. Why is the OGL? Why is the text of the OGL copyright by Wizards of the Coast? And he said explicitly I believe his reasoning was to make sure that there would not be people who are trying to pass themselves off as the OGL. This is not true. This is not the case over here, which is why role of law has been able to use the ORC as a basis for the ELF, because the ORC license is not something that is the copyright by Paizo. The ORC license is being put out there. So now if you want to use the ORC license as a basis, but you're like, let's clean this up, Roll of Law can directly import the ORC license and then go to town tearing it apart and rewriting it and getting it cleaned up and call that the ELF license. Sable says, then, even if it's in a public trust, it would be in a form that WotC couldn't touch. And the OGL didn't do what they wanted with the virality. Yes, thank you for the reminder, BGD. Please do hit the like button to help it grow and help get the morning grind out to more people who might be sitting there. There might be lonely people sitting out there on YouTube right now who would love to be with us, and they just don't know this is going on. They could be part of our community. They're welcome here. Andrew says, good morning. And this time I'm hitting the like button before someone reminds me. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome. And John. Welcome, John. Micah says, right, the virality is what Paizo and many others wanted. So people had to give mechanics. It had to give mechanics if they used mechanics. Yes, Paizo didn't want CC4 by 4.0 and give more than mechanics. Right. And right. Yes. Okay. So right. The OGL is copyrighted. Micah says, WotC put in their OGL 2.0 to be able to copy your work without credit. But InPress said that wasn't the intent. And then Paizo saw that as a way to do that by forcing the virality of mechanics. They would have to credit, but not pay. Right. This is about the OGL. A lot of companies and individuals saw that and wanted that, but wanted the credit to happen. He didn't build the ELF license off the ORC license? Oh, in one of the videos that I was watching, he said that one of the things that he thought that the ORC license did right was giving the ORC license over so that it could be modified. And that one of the reasons that he's been able to work on the ELF license so quickly was because he had the foundation of the ORC to work on. And that he thought that was at least one of the things that the ORC was doing right to allow us to extend and create a new version of it. So I think that he... right. Yeah. So he didn't. Well, but he started. Yeah. So I remember him specifically talking about that it was a help to him to have the ORC as something that could be worked from. He started looking at what it did and didn't work from and had permission to do so, both from the license law and from ORC license and the AX terms themselves. Yeah. So you can do stuff with the ORC license, like use this as a foundation for modification in a way that you can't with the OGL. Okay. So now so that was definitions. Right. It isn't built off of it, but uses some framework concepts and terms. It doesn't modify the ORC license as it can't be, but it's built sideways, not on. Right. Yes. Okay. So I think we're saying the same things. So an advantage is that you can use this to build sideways off of. It doesn't. Yeah. The ELF does not modify the ORC. The ELF is not a modification of the ORC. It's something that is built off of, built sideways, as Micah says. Yes. Grant and limitations. Okay, so 2. So this will be important too. Primary grant to you. So if you are using the license, what do you get? Subject to the terms and conditions of this ORC license. For the term licensor, that's one of our words, the licensor hereby grants to you a worldwide, royalty-free, non-sublicensable, non-exclusive, irrevocable, that word's in there, license to exercise the licensed rights in the licensed material, to use the licensed material in whole or in part, that may be terminated only as set forth in Section 5A for your breach. So if you are in breach, that's the only reason they can be terminated, and we're going to get to what that means and how you fix it. Licensure hereby authorizes you to exercise the licensed rights in all media and formats, whether now known or hereafter created, and to make technical modifications necessary to do so. So this is also that virtual tabletop. We're not just talking about in all media. We're not just talking about books. We're not just talking about computer games. We're not just talking about virtual tabletops. We're talking about all of them, all media and all formats, because Wizards of the Coast was trying to close that off, whether they're right here or whether there's something that's going to be created later, and make the technical modifications to do so. Licensor hereby waives and or agrees not to assert any right or authority to forbid you from making technical modifications necessary to exercise the licensed rights, including technical modifications necessary to circumvent effective technology methods. Okay, grant of adapted license material by you. You hereby receive an offer from the licensor to exercise the license rights on the expressed condition that you do and hereby grant to every recipient of the adapted license material an irrevocable offer to exercise the licensed rights. This is the virality section, right? So this is, we're going to talk a lot about this right here, but here's the actual terminology. On the expressed condition that you do and hereby grant to every recipient of the adapted licensed material an irrevocable offer to exercise the licensed rights in the adapted licensed material under the terms and conditions hereof pursuant to such adapted licensed material to which such adapted licensed material shall be licensed as licensed material to such recipient. You must not offer or impose any additional or different terms or conditions on the licensed material or apply any effective technological measures to the licensed material if doing so restricts exercise of the licensed rights by any recipient of the licensed material. I mean, right, that's the virality, right? So adapted licensed material means derivative works that use all or any portion of the licensed material that you create or publish to the limited extent that such derived works would otherwise constitute those forms of licensed material set forth in section 1E. So this is a derivative work. Adapted licensed material is a derivative work. That might be clearer, I think, to say, if we're looking at this, but what this exactly says right here. You hereby receive an offer from the licensor to exercise the license rights on the expressed condition that you do and hereby grant every recipient of your adapted work an irrevocable offer to exercise the licensed rights in the adapted work under the terms and conditions hereof pursuant to such derivative work shall be licensed as licensed material to such a recipient. This part here is why the infinite license would need to be changed to be able to work with the ORC license. Yes, this is the part that makes them incompatible, because this is telling you that your adapted licensed material, your derivative work, must be licensed under the same license. Must be. With all of the ambiguities that we see. And if it's on the Infinite, then if it's on Infinite Pathfinder, then it cannot go anywhere else. Those two licenses are in conflict. And it's not just a conflict of it's of the world. It's a conflict of the license of the mechanics as well. Why does Paizo care if mechanics are used on Infinite that were found first, they were published first, not on Infinite? And likewise, if somebody comes up with a great mechanic on Infinite, why can't that be used off of Infinite? But nonetheless, it cannot. That's what caused us to be looking at this entire thing. The Infinite license requires you to only publish on Pathfinder, Starfinder, Infinite, and to be able to additionally gain the right to use the Last Omens setting. which was in conflict with the ORC. Micah says the OGL, on the other hand, is not in conflict, as it is a third-party license, and you can't have its parts taken out. You have to dual license. Okay, maybe you can answer this for me, Micah, with regard to the idea of virality. Because this is virality, share and share alike. The philosophy of the share and share alike license. I mean, you can either be on board with, you can understand it. We want to understand that philosophy. Now, you can either agree with it or not agree with it. But apparently, there are a lot of people who are really philosophically beholden or philosophically on board with the idea of the viral license and the share and share alike and what that means and what we're doing. I mean, obviously. And so this is one of these licenses. Naively, if you had asked me, John says the OGL subject is what brought me to Heath's Geekverse. This is pretty interesting. I know. So it's back again. It's all back again. Where was I going with that? Oh, okay. So naively, if you said, hey, we're going to use a viral license here. And it's because philosophically, hey, if somebody lets you use something, it's not fair to close off your adaptation of it. Okay, so I've got, so let's say that. And let's say you're on board with that. Naively, to me, that might say, let's say Micah, since Micah's been an important part of this. Micah writes a spell in a book and grants a license to it under a share and share alike viral license. And I really like Micah's spell. And let's say, let's say that I'm writing a whole book of spells. I want to, this is a spell that appears in Micah's world book or something like that. And explicitly, we'll say explicitly, that spell is licensed under an open license that happens to be share and share alike. And I'm writing up a whole book of spells. And I really like Micah's spell. And because it's open, under this open license, because it's licensable, I can put this spell in my book and include it in the whole collection. But also, I think it needs a little bit of tweaking to balance it. So I take Micah's spell and I do a little bit of tweaking on it to actually better balance it in accordance with the way I think the rules need to be balanced. And then I'm going to publish that spell in the book. According to a naive understanding of share and share alike, and let's say it's going to have a book of 50 spells. It's a book of 50 spells. One of them is a modification of Micah's spell. Under a naive understanding of share and share alike, I would not be able to hold exclusive rights to my modification of Micah's spell because under the philosophy, if I'm using this license, that, hey, Micah gave me this spell and said that I could use it. So if I make an adaptation of it and, clean it up, tweak it, whatever, that I can't all of a sudden make that adaptation mine. Hey, I got it from Micah. So philosophically, according to this way of thinking, that my modification of Micah's spell should also be open. And I can go with that. The weird part appears to be that if I have 49 other spells that I've completely written myself, and that I might not want that, why is it part of the philosophy that all 49 of those custom spells must also be open? Is that the weird part to anybody else? Did I say that succinctly enough? That I would need that under one philosophy, if I take Micah's spell, which is open, I do a modification of it according to a viral license, I would not be able to close off my version of Micah's spell because it was built on something that was open. But whether or not I modified Micah's open spell shouldn't have any type of bearing on the whole other 49 spells in my book that I wrote myself. Yet, according to the philosophy behind which this was built, because I modified Micah's spell as 1/50th of the spells in my book, then every spell that I wrote in that book must also be open. That's kind of a different thing. Am I understanding that? Because I'm afraid that is a naive I'm afraid that because that was like my understanding of what a share and share alike license might have been before I got involved, that other people might also have that license and that understanding, and that may be a misunderstanding of the license. But do I have all that right? I'm sure people will let me know in the comments. But are there other versions of licenses like this that would do that I would also put in my book? Hey, by the way, spell number 23 is open content, is licensable material, because it was derived from Micah's work, which was open material. Here's the license. So if you want to extend on that, please do extend on that. But it doesn't apply to the other 49 spells. Let's see. Let's go to the discussion. On the other hand, Paizo created and owns the infinite license and could choose to change it. Exactly. Paizo created and owns the infinite license. It could choose to change it if it wants to, but it's not. And why? Maybe because the orc has such ambiguity in it that they don't want to do that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Micah says the orc license, however, prevents them from being a third-party licensor of their own material. The orc, oh, that's interesting. So the orc license prevents them from being a third-party licensor of their own material. Okay, Micah says, your example is largely what Role of Law was talking about. However, his example is someone taking everything as written, 0 tweaks, and being able to sell it because you can't protect against that, but not being required to add anything. Right, yes. Okay, exactly. Now, I did hear him tell this too, because this is also something that you could do. If I go through everybody's orc material, if I want to create a book of spells, right? This was the example that and I go through everybody's orc material, I don't have to add anything to it. I could just gather every spell that I can find out of orc material, copy it verbatim, and sell it. Now, of course, that's the case like with the OGL, you know, what the original FAQ of the OGL is like, hey, can I publish the SRD and sell it? And of course, the SRD is out there and free. But Wizards was like, yes, that does what that means. You can publish the exact OGL of the exact SRD if you would like, if you think anybody would pay for it. Because in that case, that's something that Wizards of the Coast was deliberately choosing to give away. But third-party publishers didn't have to do that. And that's why I was talking yesterday. We had the idea yesterday of the purpose, one of the purposes of the OGL, one of its purposes was to allow third-party publishers to actually create something of value that people would pay for, which propelled the industry forward in a big way. If your license is what Micah is talking about right here, somebody could buy your copy, then sell a collection for $1 when you sold it for $3, if it's all mechanical from anything they copied from. Lower prices, more spells, sells faster. That is taking value. That's explicitly starting to say this starts the race to the bottom. This starts the race to the bottom and starts to remove value. Right. John says, I understand. I see your point. But how do you carve out and copyright parts of a written work and not others? I don't have the answer. It just seems prohibitively complex to me. Well, that's exactly what the orc was supposed to do, right? How do you carve out and copyright parts of a written work and not others? That was one of the explicit goals of the orc, was to try to make a simple way, and it seems like it failed, to determine, hey, this is I don't know. Well, no. Well, might as well use Pathfinder as an example. Hey, we need a simple license to be able to explain that, hey, the game mechanics of this book right here are under license, but everything that is like my world book, my world building, my characters, my stories is not. And I don't have to create an SRD. because it says they were trying to alleviate the requirement to create an SRD, which is what you're talking about. That, well, just create a whole new work, an SRD, say that's under license, and then use the material in your whole world book, which is, I think, what we're coming back to with the ORC. That just seems like the way that it has to be done, even though they tried and have apparently failed. But they were trying to come up with a way to carve out what parts are. Now, on the other hand, Wizards of the Coast tried saying, here's the whole work. Chapters 1, 3, 7, and 14 are under license. I mean, that would be a way to carve up parts of a copyrighted work, by chapter. But Micah says you do this by specifically declaring what you want to pass on instead of having it automated. Ambiguities paired with automation is the headache here, right? So if nothing is passed on without your explicit agreement, then okay, we're okay. Because if you explicitly agree, then hey, whatever, pass on whatever you want to. But this license automates, I like what has to be passed on in an ambiguous way. The ELF license tells you to state what you pass on, and nothing else can be taken, right? Unless you ask for permission for the creator and get a secondary license, of course. BGD says, personally, I'm not on board with the viral nature of these licensing schemes. An RPG is essentially like a language in which adventurers and worlds will be spoken to an established audience. System publishers and third-party authors are both creating content to make money. So if a publisher decides to create an SRD under an open license, they should allow third-party creators to make fair profit, knowing that having more content for their system out in the marketplaces creates indirect value for the publisher by increasing the presence and demand for their game system at no cost, which is what Ryan Dancy realized. And propelled Dungeons & Dragons forward, rescued the brand. John says, that makes sense. But would such an introduction, appendix, addendum onto the written work be legally binding? Well, I think it could be, yeah. Micah says, agreed, BGD. I love that people want to give stuff away. Heck, I'm going to. But it's my choice about what to give. Sure, I can and will use the ORC license, but only with an SRD. Yeah, that sounds like what the SRD was. Yeah. It gets even more difficult to understand when you trace a parallel with AI-generated art rights. Man, we're going to have to get into that too. TSL Frontman says, the one thing I wish I had clarity of out of all of this is if I've got a game that's not using a D&D related system, what should I use for protecting my rule books? Copyright. I mean, if you're just trying to protect it, and you're not trying to make any material open, I mean, the answer is easy. If you're not trying to make any material openly licensable, if you're not trying to give away any of your material, and you just write a game that's not D&D related, and you want to protect it, what do? Copyright it. It's yours. That's easy, right? But if you are trying to give some of it away, then at the moment, let's take. We'll be looking at a draft of the ELF license in a couple days. I would say the OGL does work, but only if you want to, if what you want to keep is on the list of product identity. If it's not, it might also be able to be copyrighted. The ELF license in second draft has even more control. So yeah, so I'm liking the idea of the ELF more and more. We'll take a look. I haven't read the draft yet, but now I'm understanding the problems of this. Let's see. We have a few more minutes here, and then I got to do other things. Database rights. When the licensed rights include sui generis database rights that apply to your use of the licensed material, this ORC license grants you the right to extract, reuse, reproduce, and use all of a substantial portion of the contents of the database. And if you include all or a substantial portion of the database contents in a database in which you have sui generis database rights, then the database in which you have sui generis database rights, but it's not individual content, shall constitute adapted licensed material. Okay, so one of the issues with the database, so I think one of the reasons why the database is in here is because that was another kind of thing that Wizards was trying to pull, and saying that that the OGL material, oh, it's fine if you want to publish a written book. That was what we were supposed to do with it. But if you're going to do something like put some information up on a website, oh, well, now that's not covered anymore because that's a database and whatever. So the idea that databases are explicitly called out here. I guess it depends on whether or not we finish this. It looks like we're not. No, we're so not tomorrow because we're not done with this yet. John asked, does the original OGL or the revised SRD in Creative Commons have similar virality clauses? No. No. See, that's exactly right. TSL Farman says, that's a good point. I'd be happy with people using my mechanics, but I'd be concerned with people taking my characters. Right. CC by 4.0 is not viral, but only if you're a licensee, not licensor. If you're a licensee, you have full use of all but trademarks and patents. If you are a licensor, you give up all but the trademarks and patents, the entire text. The OGL, on the other hand, was designed for the SRD and putting your own material into it. It's more iffy with the phrasing. Many didn't add more, and the law at the time was different than now. What was allowed then might not be allowed now. Well, right. So it's not viral, right? But what it did is this is what Robert was talking about. What did the community really want and care about? Do they really want a fantastic open license, or did they want to ensure that D&D 5.0 and maybe other editions as well are still available to the community, as was always the case, understood under an open license? Okay, well, we might have to get to required notice later. So limitations. Nothing in this ORC license constitutes or may be construed as permission to assert or imply that you are, or that your use of the licensed material is, connected with or sponsored, endorsed, or granted official status by the licensor or others designated to receive attribution hereunder. Makes sense? Moral rights, such as the right of integrity, are not licensed under this ORC license, nor are publicity, privacy, or any other similar personality rights. However, to the extent possible, the licensor waives and agrees not to assert any such rights held by the licensor to the limited extent necessary to allow you to exercise the licensed right, but not otherwise. To the extent possible, the licensor waives any right to collect royalties from you for the exercise of the licensed rights and use of the licensed material, whether directly or through a collecting society under any voluntary or waivable statutory or compulsory license scheme. Yeah, so Micah clarifies, no, CC by 4.0 you can use without giving anything up. If you don't put your work into the license, you are a licensee, not a licensor, right? So you can make, so it's non-viral, but because of CC4 of the 5e SRD going into CC by 4.0, you can use it, anything in there, and you are not required to go viral. Okay, we've been going for an hour and a half here. So I guess that tomorrow we will not be doing Elf because we still have more Orc to do. So I guess we'll finish Orc tomorrow and then start looking at Elf, I guess, on Friday, because that would be, a bleeding time again. So Thursday is Thanksgiving, so there will be no morning grind on Thanksgiving Day, because I will be on the road going to lunch. Yeah, Robert says my argument is that if the SRD was not valuable and desired to be used by a third-party publishers, well, and if it like was, how many thousands of books were already under that license? Nobody would have cared about OGLG authorization, of course. All right, everybody. Lots to do today. Go forth, be creative, be constructive. Thank you so much for being here. Again, the comment section was fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. You contributed to the overall conversation so much. And if you're watching on replay, thank you so much as well. And if you've got want to extend the conversation, I'll be checking out comments and things like that. So please put that in the comments. Everybody, go forth, be creative, constructive, and